You know how sometimes just the thought of certain foods can just instantly brighten your day? Like for me, it's a warm slice of apple pie or my grandma's lasagna, pure comfort. Well, it turns out there's a whole world of science behind why those feel-good flavors have such a powerful effect on us. And today we're going to go on a deep dive, exploring how food, mood, and overall health were all intertwined.
It really is fascinating how much we're learning about this mind-body connection. We tend to think of food solely as fuel, but it's so much more than that.
Absolutely. And to guide our exploration today, we've got two pretty intriguing sources. First up, a list of creative podcast episode ideas, all centered around the theme, Feel Good, Eat Well. And then we'll be tapping into some solid science from a YouTube video titled, Feel Good, Live Well, The Health Benefits of Positivity, Our Mission. Well, to uncover the surprising link between what we eat and how we feel, and maybe even discover some delicious ways to boost our well-being along the way.
I'm curious, though, how would you define feel-good food? Is it purely about taste and pleasure, or is there something deeper going on, a connection to our emotional and physical well-being?
That's a great question, and it's something that the YouTube video dives right into. It explores the science behind positive emotions and how they can actually trigger the release of feel-good chemicals in our brains, things like dopamine and oxytocin.
And it's important to note that these chemicals aren't just about, fleeting happiness. They play a really crucial role in reducing stress, improving sleep, promoting a sense of overall well-being.
Exactly. The video even cites a study from the Journal of Happiness Studies that found that maintaining a positive outlook can decrease your chances of developing chronic illnesses.
That's pretty motivating, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to boost their mood and potentially reduce their risk of illness all at the same time? It's a compelling link for sure. And it highlights the very real impact our mental state can have on our physical health. Think about it this way. Chronic stress can contribute to all sorts of serious health issues like high blood pressure, heart disease. But this research suggests that cultivating positivity and tapping into those feel-good chemicals could actually act as a buffer, potentially mitigating some of those risks.
There's even a statistic from the American Journal of Epidemiology that found individuals with a positive outlook have a 25% lower risk of dying prematurely. So basically, being happy might just help you live longer. But how exactly does food fit into this equation?
Well, while the video focuses on the broader benefits of positivity, it lays the groundwork for understanding how food choices can play a role in boosting mood and overall well-being. It's not explicitly stated, but it sparks a question. Can we actually eat our way to happiness?
Right. And that's where our list of podcast episode ideas, Feel Good, Eat Well, comes in. It's like a menu of delicious possibilities, all focused on exploring the connection between food and mood.
This is where we can start to see the interconnectedness of our choices and how they contribute to a more holistic sense of well-being. It's not just about finding foods that taste good, but about exploring the potential of food to act as a catalyst for positive emotions and, by extension, better health.
Okay, let's unpack a few of these intriguing episode ideas. One that really caught my eye is called culinary mood boosters. The concept is fascinating, creating recipes that are specifically designed to include ingredients with known positive effects on mental health. You'd actually learn about the benefits of each ingredient while you cook, which I think is just a brilliant way to make healthy eating more engaging.
I love that idea. It's about being more intentional with our food choices. By understanding the science behind certain ingredients, we can make informed decisions that support both our physical and our mental well-being. Imagine biting into a delicious meal prepared with mood-boosting ingredients. Not only are you satisfying your taste buds, but you're also potentially triggering the release of those feel-good chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin that we talked about earlier.
Exactly. There's another idea called cultural comfort foods that I think you'll appreciate. It's all about exploring feel-good dishes from different cultures and how they connect to traditions and emotional well-being. They even suggest incorporating personal stories and cooking demonstrations, which would add such a rich layer to the experience.
What's fascinating about that concept is how it highlights the social and cultural dimensions of food. Food isn't just sustenance. It's a way to connect with our heritage, share experiences with loved ones, and create a sense of belonging. And those heartwarming stories and visuals would definitely bring those ideas to life.
Totally. And then there's recipe Ritos, which is all about taking classic comfort foods and making them healthier without sacrificing that comforting aspect. So you can still enjoy your favorite dishes, but in a way that supports long-term health and well-being. Now, I know what you might be thinking, healthy comfort food, is that even possible?
I get it. It sounds almost counterintuitive. But this concept speaks to the idea that healthy eating doesn't have to be restrictive or boring. We can find creative ways to adapt our favorite recipes to be more nutritious while still satisfying our cravings and providing that sense of comfort. It's about finding that balance between indulgence and nourishment.
Okay, so we've got this idea that positivity can boost our mood and potentially even impact our long-term health. And then we've got all these cool ideas about how to use food to create those feel-good experiences. But the YouTube video actually goes a step further, gives us 5 specific strategies for boosting mood, and get this, they all tie back to food in some way.
This is where we start to see the bigger picture, how seemingly unrelated aspects of our lives are actually intertwined and can contribute to our overall sense of well-being. It's like a ripple effect. When we make an effort to cultivate positivity in one area of our lives, it can influence other areas as well.
Exactly. And that's where we're headed next. We'll dive into those 5 strategies and explore how they connect back to the theme of food and well-being.
Picking up where we left off, it's fascinating how these seemingly simple strategies for boosting mood can have such a profound impact on our well-being.
It really is. And you know what's interesting? I feel like it's all connected. Like maybe the gratitude you feel for your morning coffee inspires you to, I don't know, try a new healthy breakfast recipe. And suddenly you're not just feeling good mentally, but you're also nourishing your body with good food.
I see what you mean. It's like a ripple effect. When we start incorporating these positive practices into our daily routines, it can influence other areas of our lives as well.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the concept of mood-boosting cuisine, right? It's not just about the immediate pleasure of taste. It's about recognizing that the food choices we make can have a lasting impact on both our physical and mental health.
Right. And it's not about deprivation either. Remember that recipe Ritos episode idea? It's about finding ways to enjoy our favorite comfort foods in a way that supports our long-term well-being.
Totally. So we've talked a lot about how food can positively impact our mood. But what about the flip side? Can what we eat actually have a negative impact on our mental state?
That's an important question, and unfortunately the answer is yes. There's growing evidence that suggests certain dietary patterns can actually contribute to mood disorders like anxiety and depression.
Oh, wow. Really? I had no idea. Like, what kind of patterns are we talking about?
Well, for example, diets that are high in processed foods, sugar, and unhealthy fats have been linked to an increased risk of depression. These foods can cause fluctuations in blood sugar levels, leading to energy crashes and mood swings, and that can definitely impact how we feel.
So it's not just about what we eat. It's also about the quality of the food we choose.
Exactly. And it's not about, demonizing certain foods or creating restrictive diets. It's about making informed choices, being mindful of what we're putting into our bodies, and finding a balance that works for each of us.
This is really making me rethink my relationship with food. It's so much more complex than I realized.
I think that's one of the most exciting things about this whole exploration. We're starting to understand the profound impact food can have on our lives in ways we never even imagined before.
Okay, so before we jump into those 5 mood-boosting strategies from the YouTube video, there's one more podcast episode idea I want to touch on. It's called Mindful Meal Prep.
Oh, that one sounds intriguing. Tell me more.
Well, the idea is to combine the act of cooking with mindfulness practices. Each episode would include a short meditation or breathing exercise before diving into the recipes.
I love that. It's about bringing a sense of awareness to the entire process of preparing food, from selecting ingredients to chopping vegetables to savoring the final meal.
Yeah, and it's not just about the cooking. It's also about being present while you're eating, really paying attention to the flavors, textures, and aromas of your food.
It's about transforming cooking from a chore into a mindful ritual, a way to connect with ourselves and appreciate the nourishment we're providing for our bodies.
It also ties back to that gratitude strategy we were talking about earlier. Taking a moment to appreciate the effort that goes into preparing a meal, even a simple one, can foster a sense of gratitude and contentment.
Absolutely. And that sense of mindfulness can extend beyond the kitchen. We can bring that same awareness to any activity, from walking in nature to spending time with loved ones.
Okay, so we've got mindful meal prep, culinary mood boosters, recipe redos, and cultural comfort foods. Is there anything else on this list that's speaking to you?
There's one that particularly resonates with me, and it's called farm-to-table journeys. The idea is to document visits to local farms and markets, emphasizing sustainable eating and exploring the connection between the food we eat and its origins.
Oh, I love that one. It's so relevant to what we were just talking about in terms of the quality of our food.
Yeah.
Knowing where your food comes from and how it's produced can definitely make a difference in how you feel about eating it.
Exactly. It's about fostering a deeper appreciation for the entire food system, from the farmers who grow our food to the chefs who prepare it, and understanding the interconnectedness of everything and making choices that support both our personal well-being and the health of the planet.
And they even suggest interviewing farmers and chefs about how fresh, seasonal ingredients can contribute to well-being. I bet they'd have some incredible stories and insights to share.
I think it would be fascinating to hear their perspectives. And, it's interesting to consider the impact of seasonality on our diets. Eating foods that are in season not only supports local farmers, but also provides us with the nutrients our bodies need at different times of the year.
It's like we're working with nature's rhythms instead of against them.
Exactly, and that's a powerful concept.
Okay, so now that we've explored all those amazing podcast episode ideas, let's finally dive into those 5 mood-boosting strategies from the YouTube video. Remember, they all tie back to food in some way.
I'm ready when you are.
All right, the first strategy is gratitude. The video suggests starting each day by listing 3 things you're grateful for, and you know what? It doesn't have to be anything complicated.
I agree. Sometimes the simplest things are the most powerful.
Exactly. Like, even something as simple as being grateful for that first sip of coffee in the morning can set a positive tone for the day. Or taking a moment to appreciate the vibrant colors of the fruits and vegetables in your fridge.
It's about shifting our perspective and focusing on the abundance in our lives. And what's interesting about gratitude is that it can actually create a positive feedback loop.
Tell me more about that.
Well, when we feel grateful for something, it releases dopamine, one of those feel-good chemicals we talked about earlier. And that dopamine hit can actually motivate us to seek out more experiences that make us feel grateful.
So the more we practice gratitude, the more we experience those positive emotions. I like that.
It's like a virtuous cycle.
Okay, so gratitude is the first strategy. What's next?
The second strategy is connection. The video highlights the importance of spending time with loved ones, nurturing our relationships, and building a sense of community.
And of course, there's no better way to connect with people than through food.
Absolutely. Sharing a meal is a universal act of connection. It creates a space for conversation, laughter, and the sharing of stories.
And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Even just sitting down for a simple meal with your family or having coffee with a friend can make a big difference.
It's about being present with the people we care about and savoring those moments of connection.
All right. Connection is number 2. What's the third strategy?
The third strategy is movement. The video emphasizes the importance of physical activity for both our physical and mental health.
And exercise isn't just about hitting the gym or going for a run. It can be anything that gets your body moving and your heart rate up.
Exactly. It could be dancing, swimming, gardening, or even just taking a brisk walk.
And I think it's important to find activities that you actually enjoy. If you're dreading your workouts, you're less likely to stick with them.
I completely agree. Movement should be something that brings us joy, not something we feel like we have to force ourselves to do.
And what's great about exercise? It can actually make healthy food taste even better.
Oh, that's interesting. How so?
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
When you've just finished a good workout, you're more likely to crave nutritious foods that will replenish your energy and help your body recover.
That makes sense. So movement can actually help us make healthier food choices.
Exactly. It's all connected.
I love how these strategies are all intertwined.
Me too. Okay, so we've covered gratitude, connection, and movement. What's the fourth strategy?
The fourth strategy is mindfulness and meditation. The video talks about the importance of slowing down, being present in the moment, and quieting the mind.
And this is something we can practice not just during dedicated meditation sessions, but also throughout our day, right?
Absolutely. We can bring mindfulness to any activity, including eating.
So instead of mindlessly scarfing down our food, we can take the time to really savor each bite, paying attention to the flavors, textures, and aromas.
Exactly. It's about engaging all of our senses and fully experiencing the act of eating.
And this can actually help us feel more satisfied with our meals and prevent overeating.
That's right. When we eat mindfully, we're more in tune with our body's hunger and fullness cues.
Okay, mindfulness is number 4. What's the fifth and final strategy?
The fifth strategy is to engage in hobbies and activities that bring us joy.
And this can be anything that sparks our passion and creativity, whether it's painting, playing music, writing, dancing, or spending time in nature.
Hobbies allow us to tap into our unique talents and express ourselves authentically.
And you know what's interesting? Some hobbies, like gardening or cooking, actually connect back to food.
That's a great point. When we grow our own food or prepare meals from scratch, we're not just engaging in a hobby, we're also nourishing our bodies and connecting with the source of our sustenance.
And there's something so satisfying about creating something delicious with your own hands.
I couldn't agree more. It's a wonderful way to express our creativity and nurture ourselves.
Okay, so we've covered all 5 mood-boosting strategies: gratitude, connection, movement, mindfulness, and hobbies. What are your thoughts on these strategies?
I think they're all incredibly valuable. And what's so great about them is that they're all accessible to everyone. We don't need any special equipment or training to start incorporating these practices into our lives.
Exactly. It's all about making small, sustainable changes that add up over time.
And you know, it's interesting. These strategies aren't just good for our mental and emotional well-being. They can also have a positive impact on our physical health.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
When we feel good mentally and emotionally, it can actually boost our immune system and reduce our risk of chronic disease.
It's all connected.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into the connection between food, mood, and well-being. I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too. It's been a pleasure exploring this with you.
But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to touch on something that we mentioned earlier. The fact that what we eat can actually have a negative impact on our mental state.
Yes, that's an important point to revisit.
So we know that diets high in processed foods, sugar, and unhealthy fats have been linked to an increased risk of depression. But are there any specific foods that we should be particularly mindful of?
That's a great question. And while there's no one-size-fits-all answer, there are some foods that have been identified as potential culprits when it comes to mood disorders.
Like what, for example?
Well, refined carbohydrates like white bread, pastries, and sugary drinks can cause rapid spikes and crashes in blood sugar levels. And these fluctuations can lead to mood swings, irritability, and fatigue.
That makes sense. So it's best to limit our intake of those types of foods.
Exactly. And it's also important to be mindful of our caffeine intake. While a cup of coffee in the morning can be a great way to start the day, too much caffeine can lead to anxiety, insomnia, and restlessness.
So moderation is key.
Absolutely. And it's also a good idea to limit our intake of alcohol. While a glass of wine with dinner can be enjoyable, excessive alcohol consumption can disrupt sleep, increase anxiety, and worsen symptoms of depression.
So basically, it's all about finding a healthy balance.
Exactly. It's about making informed choices and being mindful of how different foods and drinks affect our mood and well-being.
This is all so insightful.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm starting to develop a whole new awareness of my relationship with food.
That's wonderful to hear. Remember, it's an ongoing journey of discovery.
And I'm excited to continue exploring. As we wrap up our deep dive into feel-good food, I'm really struck by how much there is to discover about the connection between what we eat and how we feel.
It's a fascinating area of research that's constantly evolving. You know, we often hear about the importance of a healthy diet for our physical health, but the impact food can have on our mental and emotional well-being is just as significant.
Absolutely. And speaking of that connection, I'm curious to learn more about something you mentioned earlier, the gut-brain connection.
Ah, yes, the gut-brain connection. It's essentially a communication pathway between our gut and our brain.
Okay, break that down for me. How does it actually work?
Well, imagine your gut as a second brain. It's home to trillions of bacteria, collectively known as the gut microbiome. These bacteria play a crucial role in digesting food, producing vitamins, and supporting our immune system.
Wow, trillions. That's incredible. So how do these bacteria in our gut communicate with our brain?
That's where the vagus nerve comes in. It's a long nerve that runs from the brainstem all the way down to the abdomen, and it acts as a sort of superhighway of information between our gut and our brain.
So what we eat directly impacts the balance of bacteria in our gut, which then sends signals to our brain. And those signals can influence our mood, our thoughts, and even our behavior.
Exactly. It's a two-way street. Our brain can send signals to our gut that affect digestion and other bodily functions, and our gut can send signals to our brain that influence our mood, our cognitive function, and even our perception of pain.
This is mind-blowing. So those culinary mood boosters we talked about earlier, those recipes designed to include ingredients with positive effects on mental health, are they essentially working on multiple levels then?
That's a great point. It's not just about the direct impact of those ingredients on our brain chemistry. It's also about how those ingredients interact with the bacteria in our gut.
So by nourishing the beneficial bacteria in our gut, we can actually create a more positive environment for our brain to thrive in.
Exactly. And this is where food choices become so crucial. A diet rich in fiber, prebiotics, and fermented foods can help to promote a healthy and diverse gut microbiome.
So it's not just about what we eat, but also about how we prepare our food.
That's right. For example, fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, and yogurt are rich in probiotics, which are live bacteria that can benefit our gut health.
And what about prebiotics? I've heard that term before, but I'm not entirely sure what it means.
Prebiotics are essentially food for the probiotics. They're types of fiber that our bodies can't digest, but that the beneficial bacteria in our gut can feed on.
So we need to make sure we're eating enough prebiotics to keep those probiotics happy and healthy.
Exactly. And good sources of prebiotics include foods like garlic, onions, leeks, asparagus, bananas, and oats.
This is all so fascinating. It's like a whole ecosystem living inside of us.
It really is. And the more we learn about the gut microbiome, the more we realize just how important it is for our overall health and well-being.
Okay, so we've got the gut-brain connection, the power of positivity, and a whole menu of feel-good food ideas.
Mm.
But I have a confession to make.
Oh, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Sometimes, no matter how much I know about the benefits of healthy eating, I just crave those classic comfort foods, the kind that might not be the most nutritious, but bring a sense of nostalgia and warmth.
I completely understand. We all have those foods that make us feel good on an emotional level, and it's not about denying ourselves those pleasures. It's about finding a balance.
And that's where those recipe redos come in, right? Finding ways to make those comfort food classics healthier without sacrificing the flavors that bring us joy.
Exactly. It's about getting creative in the kitchen and experimenting with new ingredients and cooking techniques.
So maybe instead of feeling guilty about indulging in a comfort food every now and then, we can approach it as an opportunity to get creative and find healthier versions that still hit the spot.
I love that perspective. It's about taking something that we enjoy and making it work for us, rather than feeling like we have to restrict ourselves.
This whole deep dive has really been a journey of discovery, not just about food, but about myself and my relationship with what I eat.
I think that's the beauty of this exploration. It's not just about acquiring knowledge, it's about applying that knowledge to our lives and creating positive change.
And that brings us to our final thought for this deep dive. If you could leave our listeners with one piece of advice, what would it be?
My advice would be to approach food with a sense of curiosity and experimentation. Don't be afraid to try new things, to explore different cuisines, and to get creative in the kitchen.
I love that. And to add to that, I would encourage everyone to pay attention to how different foods make them feel. Notice how your energy levels, your mood, and your overall sense of well-being are affected by what you eat.
That's such an important point. We all have unique bodies and unique needs, and the best way to figure out what works for you is to tune in and listen to your body's signals.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into feel-good food.
It's been a pleasure exploring this topic with you.
Likewise. And to all of our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope you've learned some valuable insights that you can apply to your own lives.
Remember, food is more than just fuel. It's a source of nourishment, connection, and joy. So eat well, feel good, and savor every bite.
Until next time, happy cooking and happy eating.